What's up, you guys? I haven't gone live on Facebook in a long time, so it is so good to be here. And today I want to talk a little bit about anger. Anger, whether you're angry right now in this moment, or there's some hidden anger that's behind you, or some kind of anger patterns that you have in your life or business, this might be something that could be really helpful for you. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about that, and we can have an open discussion about that as well. First of all, let's talk about anger. What is anger? Where does it come from? What is it? Anger really is, so if we get to know that there's two different sets of emotions, there's the abundant emotions and there are the fear-based emotions. So the love-based emotions versus the fear-based emotions. Anger is obviously one of the fear-based emotions. So it really is coming from this like rise of cortisol in our body. And we think that there is like some kind of immediate danger that's about to happen in our lives, in our immediate surroundings. And we are essentially trying to protect what's really important to us. So this is something that I talk about in my book, Creating Your Own Happiness, regarding what anger is and how we can actually move about that or move through that. Is understanding that there's a light and that there's a shadow for every emotion that is out there. Meaning, the light, even though anger is typically perceived as an emotion that is not really productive, and a lot of times it cannot be productive, but also anger can have some benefits. So let's talk about that. What are the bright side of anger? And as weird as this sounds, there's actually some really good things about anger. So what are the benefits of anger? Anger, hi Jason, good to see you. Anger shows us a few things. Anger shows us when our boundaries are crossed, when something that's really important to us is being threatened from us. So for example, here in Bali, there's a monkey forest. When I go see the monkeys, there's always like the mother monkey with the baby monkey. If you get too close, too fast, the mother monkey gets aggressive, it gets kind of angry. Why? Because the mother monkey thinks that the child monkey, the baby monkey, is really important. They don't want to lose the baby monkey. So it's natural that they want to protect what's really important to them. So if you see this anger come up, ask yourself, what is really important right now? What is this person? What is this situation? What is this environment? Whatever the situation is, what is it really showing me that's actually important to me? And in that, you can actually come back to feeling grateful for whatever the situation was that actually showed you what's really important to you. To understand anger in that perspective, we also get to understand what boundaries are. And to understand boundaries, we also get to understand what core values are. Because oftentimes anger is protecting what's important to us. Typically, if it's not something like materialistic, it might actually be a value, a core value, a belief, something that is near to your heart. So typically your core values. So oftentimes when you feel angry, take a look at what values are being crossed right now that is really important to me, that I get to protect in this moment, that is being threatened in this moment. And in that way, you can start to notice that this person or this situation is actually someone or something that's showing you what's really important to you. And in that, you can come back to gratitude, which kind of dissipates that level of anger to the point that you can start to think clearly. I don't think anger, so some of the benefits of anger, by the way, I talk about this in my book, Creating Your Own Happiness, and this is actually something that I talk about often in my coaching as well, because I think having been, I am still an entrepreneur and high achiever myself, and having been back in the day a super type A person, I used to use anger as the emotion, the go-to emotion when anything was hard to process. And whether it was sadness, whether it was guilt, whether it was shame, whether it was apathy, whether it was pride or jealousy, whatever comes up that wasn't really serving me in that moment, anger is kind of that emotion that you go to so that you can cover up whatever else is hidden underneath. So that's one thing that you can also look at. Like anger can show you what other emotions might be potentially hidden underneath that. This is why it's so important for us to understand our own emotions, because when we are clear about what emotions are actually there. Yes, you can get the book on Amazon. And I know it's like an odd time in America, so thanks for hopping on. Yes, you can get this book on Amazon. Actually, if you go to creatingyourownhappiness.com, it will lead you directly to the Amazon link. And yeah, you should be able to order it. So I hope you like it if you end up reading it. And if you have any questions or comments after you read it, let me know. And it's actually on page 180. I talk a lot about anger and what it means and why it's there and what are the benefits of each emotion. Although I can't, name all of them, I kind of break down the main emotions that people are familiar with, such as anger, such as shame, such as joy even, and break it down like what are the light side of each emotion, what are the darker sides of each emotion. And this is really, really helpful to understand. Anger is also a lot of frustrations that is built up inside. Well, then what could that be showing you potentially? Why are there so many frustrations that's built up inside? What could have been the reason? What could have been the reason? Yeah, like that those were built up. Maybe it's showing you your need and your value and your importance of self-expression in a healthy way that you're not practicing or accessing. And that could show you, oh, this anger is actually showing me that it's really important for me to feel like, blank, like to feel expressed, to have a safe place where you can communicate and not be judged, or like whatever the situation is. So yeah, anger is also very activating, action-oriented emotion. And oftentimes I actually find that this is a reason that a lot of high achievers and even high performing entrepreneurs don't even they almost, or whether it's stress or anger, they almost don't want to get rid of it, even though they know it's there. It's a really interesting phenomenon that, I've been working as a performance coach for the last 6 years. I've talked to many different kinds of leaders and entrepreneurs. And what I find is that there is this weird thing, like people want to be happy and people want to be at peace, but they also don't, because they're scared that if they get rid of that anger that drove them this far, if they get rid of that stress that drove them this far, they might lose the motivation. So then they start to recreate this reality where they continue to hold on to that anger and that stress because the perceived benefit is actually larger than the perceived cost, which when we get super clear on what's really going on, typically that is not the case. So anyway, something to think about. Anger for me, so I know that I've shared this story before. When I was 11 years old, I moved to America and I didn't speak English. And there were times in, school and whatnot, people would indirectly bully me because I was an ESL kid. I didn't speak English. I didn't speak the language. I was culturally awkward because I was moving from Asia, from Korea, and people did not have the capacity to understand me. And, I don't know if you know, but young kids can be actually quite mean and malicious. So I just remember being 11 or 12 years old. I was at a point where I can listen and understand English, but I could not speak it fluently yet. So one day I walk into the girls' bathroom and there's a really gross bathroom stall. And I talked about this a long time ago. And I opened it and I was like, ew, that's gross. I closed it and walked away. And that moment, these two girls, American girls, walk in speaking perfect English. They open the same stall and they say, ew, except what they said was, I bet it was one of those retarded ESL kids. And I was an ESL kid. ESL standing for English as Second Language. And so I just remember feeling as an 11-year-old girl, feeling all this anger and rage. I was class president. I was one of the top students when I was in school back in the day. Hi, Jason. There's 2 Jasons. What are the chances? So I remember, when I was in Korea, right before I moved to America, I was one of the top students. And all of a sudden I moved to America and I am considered a retard. And that's not a word I personally use. This is a word they used to bully me at the time. I was all of a sudden this person that was incapable, and deaf and mute and all these things. So it made me super effing angry. So I remember thinking, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show these kids. I'm going to be speaking English better than them one day, and I'm going to learn English. I'm going to show them that I can speak this language, and I'm not stupid, and that I am actually smart. So this became like this driving force. This anger activated me to take massive action. So what did I do? I read 30 books in 30 days at the age of like 11 and a half or 12. In a language I didn't know, essentially. Like at the time I didn't speak English. So like for me, it'd be like right now trying to read a book in Bahasa, which is Indonesian, right? So I read 30 books. That's all I did for 30 days. I was determined to learn English because I wanted to show these girls that I'm not stupid, that I'm not deaf, I'm not mute, that I can do this. So that anger activated me to take massive action. A lot of times when I hear about like the rags to riches, or these different really successful entrepreneur stories, I often hear bits and pieces of this. Like there was a moment there, like they get to this like place of, I'm going to show them. I mean, I also see this in people's like personal relationship. They go through a breakup and then all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to show them that I'm hot and that, you know, I'm going to be the most fit person. And then like this person that never worked out all of a sudden gets a 6-pack, takes massive action. That's what happens. Like that's the kind of like the hidden beauty of anger that sometimes people hold on to, because there are some benefits. You're able to access like the level of focus, the level of action, inspired action that you weren't able to take before when things were just kind of good. Now this isn't good or bad, right? There's definitely benefits of that. I don't by any means regret learning English, because obviously it helped me. I wouldn't have ever written my book. I wouldn't have ever become an, author. And I would have never been do what I do as a performance coach, or I would have never made friends. Like there's so many benefits. However, that anger carried me through for a long time in different ways, and it started to manifest in weird ways, such as becoming a highly overachieving person and seeking like that, like it became about them versus me. It became about me needing to prove to the outside world what I was capable of, rather than me checking in to see, is this the life I want? Is this the life I want? Is this what I want? Instead, it just became about being the best at everything. And it wasn't coming from like a place of, and I think at times it was, but sometimes it was definitely coming from this place of like that anger that carried through from that moment. So I became, I did 2 degrees in 4 years, and graduated top of the class in college, and, partied to the max, not understanding that there's all these emotions that I get to address. Instead, I just kind of like took massive action in every direction. It was like panic mode, right? For many years. And this wasn't really serving me either. Why do I mention this? Because I think anger can be really powerful until it's not. There's got to be a point where we got to look at anger and say, okay, that's helpful. I'm so glad it took me this far. I'm so glad it showed me what's important to me. And we also get to have this loving conversation with anger and say, is this still serving me? Like, is this anger and this like taking massive action, which helped for a little bit, is this still serving me today in the way that it did maybe like that particular moment or that season in my life or business? Because what happens is when we get stuck in operating from reacting to anger, there's only a certain point that it's going to take us. And after that certain point, aka when we no longer feel the anger, we don't know where to go. This is why people who are highly successful hit a point where all of a sudden they're like, I don't even know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And they like lose that connection to anger, and therefore they don't have any drive anymore. Or they hit that point of like no longer feeling anger, and they're conflicted because part of them, their body's like, hey, it's not healthy for us to hold on to this anger. But then their logical mind and the way that they've trained themselves is like, well, without this anger, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go from here? You don't have anything else to motivate you. So then we constantly start operating from this place of not being enough and trying to be enough. And, you're operating from this place of fear. Hi, Eric. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Raphael. Hi, Roddy. Hey, Chris. Hi, Jason. Everybody who just hopped on. So good to see you. So we're just having a chat about anger and what that really means. So at what point, and this is it's so important to check in with ourselves and say, is this anger that was once serving me still valuable, still helpful? And if not, how can I recreate that motivation to succeed, to keep going, to create impact, or create business, create money, create abundance, whatever you're creating, in a way that actually feels good. And it's no longer coming from this place of survival mindset, because anger, while it can take us to massive action, just like a car, you can go 100 miles per hour for so long before it crashes or just like cannot go anymore at that rate. It burns out. And then we wonder why we as humans burn out. That's literally what's going on. On the physiological, neuroscientific level, what's happening? Anger is definitely a fear-based emotion. What is fear? Fear is a fight or flight emotion, meaning, or fear, fight or flight mechanism rather. So we get into the state of trying to move away from pain. So in my example, the pain I was trying to move away from was no longer feeling like I was being discriminated against, I was getting bullied, I was being made fun of. That pain of feeling like, just like Eric said, like that wasn't serving me. So I want to move away from that. So what did I do? I took massive action so that I can move away from that pain. So now when we're trying to move away from that pain and survive in a social sense, for me at the time, and a lot of us are operating from that, because fear isn't good or bad. If someone's literally chasing after you, or there's a tiger after you, and your physical health, well-being is in danger, it's probably good that you feel fear. It's probably good that you feel like aggressive so that you can actually protect yourself. But in a lot of times these days, this anger or fear mechanism is activated in a social sense, which if you think about, like no matter, even if those girls were making fun of me back in the day when I was 11 years old and bullying me, whatever, like I was actually pretty safe. Like I wasn't actually feeling physically in danger. So I get to understand that that was like a social construct of fear and anger I was feeling. So what happens when we feel that fear, but by the way, our physical body doesn't know whether it's social or environmental or physical, like whatever. So yeah, Eric, like then it's fighting from extremes. Yeah. So then what happens? There's a rise in this cortisol level in our body, and we start to operate from that place. We start to operate from this fear mode, fight, flight, or freeze. And we can run away from a tiger for so long, whether it's real or not, before we get tired. So when we're creating from that place, oftentimes we will start to feel tired and burnt out. And this is why when I work with some of these burnt out entrepreneurs and high achievers, we get to look at like what has been stressing you out, what kind of, patterns of anger do you hold on to? Are you understanding your emotions? And this is why it starts to become really helpful. Now, before I have to like really spell out the non-benefits or the cost of anger, you're probably pretty much aware, and you can probably even scan your own life where anger didn't serve you. Anger itself isn't bad. It's just how we deal and manage that anger, and how long we hold on to it. As Dr. Joe Dispenza would call it, it's the refractory period. How long are we willing to hold on to that anger? Because we know at the end of the day, this high levels of cortisol, aka poison in our body that we hold on to, isn't theirs to feel. It's ours to feel, right? Like us being angry at someone isn't hurting them. It's hurting us for the most part. So what are the non-benefits? Well, it's literally harming you. It's burning you out. It's burning out your system. It's burning out your engine, because the high levels of cortisol in your body over time for chronically, it's not going to serve you in any way. This oftentimes is linked to a lot of diseases, whether it's mental or physical, even cancer, or heart diseases. I mean, a lot of these are stress related, as y'all know. Not only that, but when we are angry, what is happening? It's like we go into survival mode, meaning we can only focus, have hyper focus. The reason I was able to read 30 books in 30 days in a language I didn't know was because I was hyper focused. It became about one thing. And oftentimes, whether it's fear or anger or any of these fear-based emotions, when we are in that, we can often only focus on one thing. There's obviously benefits, because then we can take massive action, but there's also non-benefits. We forget about everything else. Right? We're not able to think outside of that one thing, and we become very, very focused, hyper-focused, to the point it no longer serves us. So anything that gets in the way of trying to quote unquote take us away from that focus can become a threat. What does that mean in a social or a family situation? So you are creating your business because you were angry that one time in your life, and you built this entire business based on anger of trying to prove them wrong. Well, guess what? It's going to be very hard for you to pull away from that hyper focus when your wife is talking to you, when your kids want your attention, when your hobbies are calling you and they're like, hey, you haven't touched your golf, stuff in a while. Whatever it is, everything feels like a distraction. When in fact, we all know that our life gets to be enriched through all of these, having a balance. It's impossible to have balance when we think that the tiger's chasing us and we gotta run. We're not thinking about balance. We're not thinking about hobbies. We're not thinking about how to open our hearts for connection and love. We're thinking about proving them wrong. And even though that may not be present in our conscious mind all the time, that's really what's happening in our subconscious mind. And therefore, it starts to work against our overall happiness, overall longevity of that fulfillment that we can actually create in our life, even when you no longer have the need to prove them wrong. In fact, they probably have forgotten about you. They don't even care what you do with your life. But it could be affecting your life in a way that no longer serves you. Also, anger can make us super reactive. It can make us not really be conscious of what the bigger picture. It makes you really focus on one thing. And if you go into this automatic mode, you're no longer working, pouring your heart out into your work or whatever you do out of anger. You are just doing it because that is the thing that you gotta do. When you're running away from tiger, you're not thinking about, is this the best way to run? Am I maximizing my movement and energy to run as fast as I can? You're not in a place where you can reflect and realign and even go faster, because you are just in this automatic mode of running because you think there's a tiger chasing you. And the same thing in business and life. It's hard when you're operating from that place of fight or flight, or not running away from pain and not towards a vision that can actually amplify your life. You are not able to stop and realign because you think that would become a distraction from your survival or moving away from pain. So what can you do? These are some of the things that I work on with my clients. First is to become aware, obviously, to become aware that, if you constantly find yourself, overachieving to the point deep down, it's not something that we have to even judge from the outside. If you stop and really reassess what's going on, you'll probably know intuitively oh, this has gone out of control. Most people know deep down. It's not something that somebody, and maybe they would be getting feedback, but I think deep down most people know when they start to feel that. So becoming aware of that is important. Is my drive truly coming from a place that is healthy? And if it does serve me, can I maybe also be open to the idea that there could be different ways to operate towards success, towards our goals, and have it all, be happy and be creating epic businesses or results or performance in the way that makes sense for you and serves you. And also, I know that every emotion, including anger, and especially anger. I think anger is such a beautiful emotion if you think about it. It comes as a teacher and a guide. Ask anger, why are you here? Like, why are you here? What are you here to show me? And maybe it's shown you it's important to you to, take that action and achieve whatever, or it's important to you to feel seen and valued. For me, that was probably the case where I wanted to feel seen and valued and be recognized for my actual abilities and worth, which was being robbed at that time, in my opinion, when I was 11 years old and I couldn't speak English, and these people were judging me based on the fact that I didn't have the ability to speak English, and they thought I was, stupid or whatever they said. So for me, I wanted to be acknowledged for who I really was and my authentic self, and that was being robbed. But they showed me that. At what point did I have the opportunity to say, oh, thank you. Thank you, anger, for showing up. It helped me get through a difficult time and, get the thing that I needed, which was to be able to speak English. And it really also showed me how much I'm willing to work for me to feel that that's important to me. That's a value that became very, very important to me. So at one point I could have just said, wow, that served its purpose. I'm going to stop being I have to, operate from a place of anger and have to feel like I'm trying to prove everyone wrong. I can instead focus on what is it that I really want to create? What is the impact that I want to have? What is it that, I want to create for the world? What's my contribution and legacy for the world? What is my purpose? But no, that's not what happened. For years to come, I just continue to be in this energy of, I'm going to prove them right. I'm going to prove them wrong and show them my abilities. And it no longer was an intrinsic thing. So at what point, at some point, it became no longer that strong drive. So what I was saying is, once you get clear about why your anger is there, thank it. Thank it for showing you why it's there, what it showed you, what's important to you, and then choose to consciously let it go. Okay, I no longer need that anger. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you for being here. It served me until now. For now, you may come visit again if, I feel like my boundaries aren't being met, or I also need to know what else is important to me in a strong way. But right now, you've served your purpose, and thank you so much. So thank you for being here, and let it go. And create other things to flow through, because like I said, when you're in that fight or flight mode, you cannot think about anything else. You cannot think about your world in an expansive way, and it could harm you more than help you. And we've all been there when we speak in that constant chronic place of stress and anger where it doesn't serve you. You're not able to receive love. You're not able to connect in a beautiful way, in a way that you want to. There's just so many non-benefits. You speak violently sometimes. Some people even become violent over time. This could definitely manifest to other violent acts. We know without even having me to explain that a lot of violence comes from anger. So obviously anger is something that is not helpful for anyone to hold on to. But one way that we can do that is to really recognize that it's there, recognize and thank it, and then choose. What else do you want to be driven by? What is the vision clear enough that will drive you forward? And this was a game changer for me when I realized that I didn't have to just run away, to prove something. I can actually run towards something to create more fun in life, to create more abundance in life, to create a vision in life. And this is when I started to realize that I can create a vision to create a business that I want, the book I want, the stages I get to speak with Eric, and, all the beautiful things that we've created. And, still thank you so much for that. And so you can really tap into this place of feeling abundant and grateful and flow and all the things that your soul probably not only desires, but knows that it's actually where your natural state is. And that's where a lot of things feel good, and you deserve to feel good. And so just want to share that with you guys. And another thing, obviously, with anger, a lot of that comes with how we feel in our body, whether it's anger, whether it's stress. there's a certain energy that's in our body when we feel that. It's very contractive. It's very restricting. It's very limiting. It's very like tense. That also doesn't serve you, and you know that. So one of the things that you can do, well, amongst many things, is go back to calming down your physical body. You know, for me, I know I've been doing yoga. A lot of people know me as a yogi. I've been doing yoga for the last 15 years, but like I never in my life thought I would become a yogi or somebody that enjoys yoga or meditation. I thought meditation was the stupidest thing. I'm like, why would somebody sit there when they can go do stuff? I'm like, that makes no sense. Why would people move slowly when you can move fast? I used to not be a big fan of that until I really realized what it does for our nervous system. It not only calms down our body, nowadays when I do yoga, because I'm so open to all the energies moving through me and all the emotions that gets released, sometimes I just like have tears coming down. I'm not in particularly like in a sad mood even. It's just like my body like starts to release any emotions that were stuck in my body. So I experience that often even in meditation. As I come back to a place of like pure gratitude, I sometimes like feel the overwhelming joy and bliss in my body that I cannot help but like have tears of gratitude. So that's happened. But also on a neuroscientific level, it changes the structure of your brain. It literally shrinks the part of your brain that experiences stress, meaning it literally shrinks the capacity of your body, of your brain, to feel chronic stress. So it's like literally shrinking the container for you to feel anger in that intensity, to feel stress in that intensity. So it literally shifts your body in a way that would support you to feel more peace for longer. And again, like I'm not against anger. I'm not against any other emotions. I think all emotions are super necessary. They're welcome. They show us something about us. They show us a lot of things about us. And without them, we wouldn't be able to really understand who we are. So there's nothing wrong or right about that, but it's so powerful to understand where they come from. I want to say one more thing about anger. Forgot. But anyway, so that's really something I wanted to jam on. And I wanted to actually talk a little bit about boundaries as well when it comes to anger and boundaries. And I think that'll be a topic for the next time. What questions do you guys have about anger? When's the last time you felt angry? Oh, actually, one more thing. Because this is a biological, physical sensation or mechanism that's happening in our body when we feel angry. Just like, you know, alcohol, drugs, whatever, it can be addicting. The moment that I realized this, it was actually very eye-opening. It was very confronting. A long time ago, I grew up in a household where there was actually a lot of like fights and angry moments amongst parents and family. And I think at one point it just became like a norm where I felt a surge of anger, like at least like once every 2 weeks or something, or once every week, even at one point in my life. And when I really started to practice these mindfulness practices and really start to understand the importance and the power of emotional intelligence, I noticed, it was so fascinating because I noticed this desire, like this weird desire, pull to want to be angry at something, and nothing was even happening. And when that happens, you're like, oh crap, this has been a cycle I was in. This has been a pattern. It was an addiction. Like our bodies start to crave the rise of the cortisol, the adrenaline. In a way, it's very addicting. So when you can see whether it's negative thinking, whether it's your stress, whether it's your anger as a pattern of addiction, it actually, at first, you might start to feel kind of like, I mean, this was true for me. I felt shame. I felt guilt because I'm like, wow, maybe a part of me, even though there were things that were definitely angry worthy at times, I had to take responsibility. Like maybe this was a pattern I was in, and it sucks to look at that. It sucks. But a part of true authentic self-love, I believe, is loving those parts so that you can actually do something about it and not shaming them so that you can actually change those parts of you. So anyway, when I started to notice these patterns, it was really confronting. And though it gave me the opportunity to shift, to train my body, train my mind in a different way where I can say, okay, I don't want to be in the cycle of anger anymore. I get to practice not having the up and down of the cortisol. I get to practice having a new foundation of how I get to feel most of the time. And noticing when my anger is warranted and maybe sometimes it's not. And really having that honest look at myself really helped me shift out of that. And for me, yoga and meditation were such powerful tools because, I don't know if you guys ever read the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. He asks us to become aware of our own thoughts and emotions. And if you think about it, we have 60 to 80 thoughts a day, depending on which ones we pay attention to. We might feel, a range of emotions throughout the day even. It's up to us. When we can become like a detached observer of the emotions that we feel, the thoughts that we have, you start to realize that you can actually become the master of your own emotions, of your own thoughts even. While the thoughts themselves are automatic, you can choose to give certain thoughts more energy and therefore increase the, a possibility of you feeling certain emotions more. And this is why, all the affirmations, all the auto-suggestive, statements or shifting our beliefs, like all of this comes into play. But that's a discussion for a whole nother time. Anyways, thank you for being here. I don't know who's still here. Hi, Wayne. I think Eric is still here. What's up? Thank you so much for watching. It's good to connect with you guys. I'm in Bali, as y'all know. I'm actually in this house that I've been at for the last few months. It's really, I think this environment for me has really helped me reach a whole new level of peace, whole new level of what's possible when it comes to my calmness, as you can imagine. All the trees and the rice fields help. And actually, I talk about this in one of my other videos, but gosh, people in Bali are just so incredibly kind. And it honestly, this is again topic for another time, but being in Bali, you guys, I realized how much in other cultures and societies we're susceptible to fear conditioned environments, whether it's media, just people every day. It's so funny because sometimes I have to call customer service in America, whether it's like my bank or whatever. And gosh, I forget how stressed out people sound all the time. I forget how their foundation emotion, and I'm not stereotyping by any means. It could have been just a bad day for this person, but dang, these people had this foundational emotional and energetic state of anger and stress, and it was very clear in the way they treated me and the way that talked to me. And so it's so eye-opening because it's not until you've been away from that for a while you start to really see that. So anyways, thank you so much. Yes, I'm having a beautiful time in Bali. It's been such a blessing. I can't even tell you. I've been really focusing on self-discipline into self-love. So I go to this really beautiful gym every day. I go to my favorite yoga studio in the jungle every day. I meditate every day. I serve my clients almost every day, because on the weekends I don't. But it's been really, really good. My mom's actually coming out here in a couple weeks, actually 1 week from today. So yeah. Life is good, and I will hop on here more often because I realize I haven't really in a while. I've been doing a lot of my live streams, if I do them at all, on Instagram. So if you guys don't follow me already, my Instagram is Yuri1C. So feel free to follow me as I am a little bit more active there. But other than that, if you guys have any questions about anger, please do let me know. Next week, I'm also offering 3 complimentary clarity coaching sessions for those that may want to take advantage of that, as some spots are opening up for my one-on-one coaching. I'm also intending to start a group coaching soon. I do have a mastermind that's already going on, and maybe I will open some spaces up there where people can join for different things. Hi Jeff, what's up? Jeff is my friend from college. To me, a big way to measure my healing is by by how well I can stay calm in situations that used to upset, trigger, or distract me emotionally in other ways. I like to think about the samurai mindset being the peace among chaos as a path to victory. It hits me in the feels. Yes, I totally feel that. Yeah, I totally agree. In the moments that used to trigger, and you can now see it through the lens of calmness or even compassion or even love, I think those are the moments that we get to like remember that we're healing. And I think that's so beautiful. I totally agree with you. You know, I recently just had a conversation with somebody where I think 10 years ago me would have been so triggered, would have wanted to talk bad about her, would have wanted to talk about like this anger and hold on to it. Whereas today, when I am faced in situations like that, I just have compassion because I know that hurt people. And I know that people who are being unkind in that moment, I don't think that's a permanent state, but I do believe that it's because they have things that they're hurting from. And knowing that I can have compassion, and also knowing that I can pour them love and also honor my boundaries in a way that serves me so that I can continue to be who I am and so on. So yeah. Anyways, well, thank you for joining. It's so good to connect with you guys. I know it's an odd time, so I'm so grateful that anyone joined at all. I think it's like 1 a.m. in Eastern time, and I think it's pretty late, pretty much, you know, all of America. So thank you for joining. If you guys have any questions about anger or anything that I discussed today, any comments, I welcome them. If you have any questions about how I serve my clients or anything about my book, this is the book. And I do have a whole chapter on dissecting a lot of these common emotions in a way that you have kind of like a logical framework you can wrap your head around so that you can start to understand your emotions better, so that you can lead yourself ultimately, hopefully, to fulfillment and joy and a peaceful life. So yeah, other than that, thank you for joining. I'll see y'all later. Thank you, Jason. Thanks for being here the whole time. It's so great to connect with you. I know some of y'all's like we chat here and there on like Facebook, but we never actually like really communicated live. So this is great. Anyways, have a beautiful evening or day wherever y'all are, and I'll talk to you later.